All right. Okay. So let me switch off my camera first. Okay. And let me share you my screen. Okay, so I hope all of you already can see my slide. Semua boleh nampak?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
good. Okay. Siapa tu? What's that? Okay. All right. So, okay, everyone. So today we are going to continue our SIJ1001 class, okay, course with the topic of major organic molecules of living cells, okay, which is for today we are going to focus on the carbohydrate, okay. All right. So, okay, can you live without sugar? All right. So in our life, all right, we have been surrounded with full content sugar, such as in our soda, in our punch, there is a sugar in it. All right. In our cookies, candy, chocolate, and dessert, all of those food they have a sugar, and also we have the sugary cereals and also ice cream. So which is we are slightly difficult to live without sugar, okay, and sugar also important to our life, right? So today's topic is carbohydrates, okay. So carbohydrates give the body energy. So this is the functions of this carbohydrate. Why do we need carbohydrate in our body? Why do we need the sugar in our body? Okay, because the carbohydrates give us the energy, give the body the energy. And also these carbohydrates are the best source of the fuel for the body. All right. And also it can help to digest the protein and also fats. Okay. So we have different types of organic molecules. If you still remember our last topic, I'm talking about type of organic molecules. We have carbohydrates, we have lipids, we have what else? We have nucleic acid, and also we have
Protein.
protein. Yes, correct, good. So all of those is actually the organic molecules. So carbohydrates is actually one of the importance of the organic molecules to our body. Okay, so when we're talking about the organic molecules, it's actually the any molecules that contain the carbon. All right, when any molecule contain the carbon, we call it as a organic molecules. Okay, so as I mentioned here, the importance of the carbohydrates, which is it can serve as the energy, and also it can be the best source of fuels for our body, and also can help to digest the protein and also the fats. Okay, so you know that the digestive pathway in our body, which is the enzyme. Okay, the enzyme in our saliva. Okay, enzyme in our saliva will begin the process to digest the protein, right, and also the fat. Okay, and also we have pepsin, right, in our stomach, which is it can initiate the breakdown of the carbohydrates. All right, and also we have lipids. We have lipids that extracted from our small intestine and also pancreas. So this is actually the importance of this carbohydrate, because it can initiate the digestive of the protein and also the fat, right? So just now I'm talking about the functions, the importance of the carbohydrate. We're talking about they can serve as the energy, right? And also they can act as the energy storage, either in human, animals, and also in the plant. All right, it can act as the energy storage. Okay, so beside can serve as the energy storage, can give the quick energy to the living organisms. The carbohydrate also important in the structure. Okay, they can give structure to the organisms, such as act as the cell wall in the plants. Okay, so this is the functions of the carbohydrates. So the examples of carbohydrates, just now we're talking about the sugar, how the sugar are important to our body. All right, and the carbohydrate also can come in the form of starch and also can come in the form of cellulose. Okay, so cellulose is actually one of the examples of the carbohydrate that functions as a cell wall to the plants. All right, so this is the examples of the carbohydrates. All right, okay, so next we are talking about sugar. So sugar is actually the building blocks. Okay, so normally names for sugar are usually end in os. Okay, for example, here we have glucose, right? So we have also fructose and sucrose and maltose. Okay, in the next slide we will learn about the classifications of carbohydrates, which is we have mono saccharides, we also have disaccharides, and also we have the polysaccharides. So in here, the examples of sugar in here, we're talking about the glucose and fructose is actually the monosaccharide, all right? While for the sucrose and maltose is actually the disaccharides, okay? So they are actually bonding of the two combination of monosaccharide. So this is one monosaccharide. This is also another one monosaccharide. So they join in the, we call it the glycosidic bond. So this is the glycosidic bonds. So when two monosaccharides are joining together, okay, so they can become the disaccharide, which is sucrose. Okay, so we also have the example of maltose and also fructose. Okay, fructose, as you know, an apple, right? An apple, they are relatively high source of fructose. Okay, so this is we're talking about the sugar, right? So carbohydrates, okay. So this is about 45 to 65% of our food actually should come from the carbohydrate, as you can see from this pie chart, right? So there is about 45 to 65% is actually come from the carbs, carbohydrates, compared to the protein and also the fats. Okay, so this is from the dietary guidelines, okay, which recommends to the human that carbohydrate can make up to 45 to 65% of our total daily calories that we intake. All right. So because of the carbohydrates, you know, just now we're talking about the functions of the carbohydrates, which is they give the body energy, right? They give the energy. They can act as the energy. They can act as the what we call storage. Okay, energy storage. Okay. Kan buruk betul tulisan, and also they can act as the best source of fuel, okay, to our body, and also just now they can act as structure. Okay. Okay, so this is why in our body it is composed about 45 to 65% intake, okay, compared to the protein and also fats. Okay. So if we eat more carbohydrates than are needed for energy, okay, which is exceed the volumes, the number of carbohydrate needed in our body, so the extra of the carbohydrate is stored in the liver or in the tissue as a fats. Okay, so if we overdo the carbs, okay, the carbohydrates, we are overdo the carbohydrates, so our blood level will be too high because more carbohydrate they can give more sugar, right? So when we are intake too much of carbohydrate, so our blood sugar will increase. Our blood sugar levels will get to the high, we get too high. So this will cause our body to make more insulin, okay, which is it tells our cells, all right, to save the extra glucose, okay, as a fat, all right. So it is also unhealthy if we are consume more carbohydrates than we need from our body. Okay, because it can lead to diabetes, because you know carbohydrate contain of a lot of sugars, right? So it can lead to diabetes or other health issues such as which it can increase the risk of heart disease and so on, right? So which means we have to consume the sufficient carbohydrates in our daily products, right? So carbohydrates are grains. Okay, so this is the examples. Where can we get the carbohydrates? Okay, from the grains, from the fruits. Okay, and it can comes from the vegetables. Okay, legumes and also sugar. Okay, hold on. I think someone want to join our class. Ada ke someone nak join? Ahmad Syahmi. Okay, so we continue. Okay, so this is the examples of the carbohydrates, all right, which is carbohydrates are the nutrients that are frequently used as the energy. Okay, when we're talking about carbohydrate, we always talking about the energy, all right, as an energy source. Okay, and also they are fast acting and turn into energy as soon as they are digested or they are ingested to our body. Okay, so this energy, the energy that produced by the carbohydrates are very important because they are the energy power to our brain, to our body. All right. So actually, the energy that powers our brain, our body is actually generated when the carbohydrates that we consume are broken down. All right. So this is the examples and also the importance of the carbohydrates. Okay. All right. So now we move to the simple carbohydrates. We also have complex carbohydrates. Okay. So carbohydrates, it can divide it into simple and also complex. Okay. Simple sugar or simple carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates. Okay. So the simple carbohydrates are quick energy sources. Okay, when you are too tired or you really lack of energy, you can easily eat the sugar, right? Because they are the quick energy sources, and they come from sugar, all right? And they do not usually supply any other nutrients or fiber. All right. So which is we are talking about the simple sugar, simple carbohydrates is actually the simple carbohydrates are made up of a shorter change. Okay, so the shorter change of molecules. Okay, just now we're talking the carbohydrate is the organic molecules, right? So when talking about the simple carbohydrate is actually made up of the shorter chains of the molecules. Okay, and also they can digest they can easily digest by our body systems. Okay, that means that the simple carbohydrates, they can produce a spike. Okay, they produce a spike in our blood glucose, which is they can providing the body with a short lasting source of energy. They can be a quick energy sources, but they also can be the short lasting energy, short lasting of energy, because they are actually made up of the shorter chains of molecules. Okay. Alamak. Ada orang lagi nak join. Afiq, please tell your friends. Please.
Ada lagi seorang, doktor.
Sorry, Afiq.
Ada lagi seorang.
Sorry,
dia
Afiq.
tengah
Talking to me.
Yep. Dia dah datang awal dah, tapi dia asking to join. Tak boleh, dia tak boleh masuk.
Alright, no. Okay.
Okay, tu dia baru masuk.
Let we continue our slide. Okay. Okay, so just now I'm talking about the simple carbohydrates. Okay, simple sugar, which is just now I'm talking about the simple carbohydrate. They are made out of the simple or shorter change of molecules, right? They can serve, they can give the quick energy sources, but they also is actually the short-lasting source of energy to our body. Okay, because they are simple sugar only have a short molecules. Okay. So for example, in here, all right. So examples of simple sugar, okay, that made up of a very short change compared to the complex carbohydrates, all right. So we have glucose, we also have sucrose, fructose, and also maltose, okay, and maltose and also lactose. So this glucose or the blood sugar is the basic source of energy for all living things. Okay, so this is the glucose. While sucrose, or we call it as the table sugar, this is the blood sugar, this is the table sugar, is made from sugar beets or sugar cane. So this is the sucrose. While fructose, okay, so just now I mentioned about the fructose, we can find it in the apple, okay, apple, right? So fructose is actually sugar found in the fruit, okay, and the fructose also can be found in the honey and also vegetables, right? And also maltose. Maltose is grain starch that broken down into sugar. And the last simple sugar that we have is the lactose. It's actually the milk sugar. All right. So but not all the simple sugars are alike, right? There are also the simple sugars that have more nutrients, okay, compared to the rest of the other simple sugar. For example, we have lactose, all right, and also we have fruits. So this is the simple sugar, but they have more nutrients, okay, compared to the other one. Okay, so these are naturally occurring sugars, and unlike the refined sugar, okay, the refined sugar, this sugar, okay, for example, the fruits, honey, vegetable, milk, okay, they are actually comes with the vitamins. They also normally comes with the minerals and also fiber, okay, that our bodies need, right? So even though we're talking about milk is a simple sugar, but they also provide the nutrients, okay, compared to the other simple sugar, right? Okay, so just now we are talking about the simple sugar. Now we are moving to the complex carbohydrates. Okay, so complex carbohydrates, they are supply long-lasting energy. So this is the vice versa of the simple sugar. Simple sugar, they can provide fast energy, but they are nutrients and also fiber that our body needs. Okay, so this complex carbohydrates, okay, and also more slowly, and also supply a lower, more steady release of glucose, okay, into our bloodstreams. Okay, so the glucose, the carbohydrate will broken down, right, when they are ingested to our body. So they have the complex carbohydrates, they have the lowest and also more steady glucose into that release into our bloodstreams. Okay, as with the just now we were talking about the simple sugar, okay, some complex carbohydrate foods, okay, there are better choice. Okay, they have bread here, they have the cereals here, okay, they are a better choice compared to the simple carbohydrates. Okay, so still in the complex carbohydrates, okay, so complex carbohydrates come from starchy foods such as the whole grains, okay, and also the flour, seeds, nuts, vegetables, and also fruits. Okay, just now some of the vegetable and fruit also can be obtained from the simple sugar, right? Okay, so complex carbohydrate also can be obtained from the some of the other vegetables and also fruits. Okay, so these complex carbohydrates, we can consider it as a good, good intake, okay, right? Because they have the longer molecules, longer molecules of sugar compared to the simple sugar. They only have a shorter change of molecule, which our body takes longer to breaking down the complex carbohydrate because they have a longer change of molecules. So the complex carbs, the complex carbohydrates, is actually pack in more nutrients than compared to the simple carbs, simple carbohydrates. Even though just now I'm talking about some of the simple sugar, they might contain nutrients, but complex carbohydrates, they are packed with more nutrients compared to the simple sugar. So they are higher in fiber, and also they can digest slowly, in our body, all right, which make these complex carbohydrates, which make them more filling, which is we can consider it as the good options for weight control, right? Dia lambat kenyang, dia akan lambat lapar, right? So if we are consume the complex carbohydrates. So just now we already learned about the function of the carbohydrates. So the examples of the carbohydrates, that our body, that the life organism needs the carbohydrates. But what is actually the carbohydrates? What is actually the carbs? What is actually the structure of the carbohydrates, and so on. So the carbohydrates is actually the most abundant organic molecules in nature, and they provide the important part of energy in our diet. And also, just now talking about the carbohydrate can act as the storage form of energy in our body, and also they are structural component of the cell membrane. They can give structure. For example, we can found the carbohydrate as a cellulose, which is act as the cell wall in the plant, right? So you must remember this one. So the terms of carbohydrates is originally used to describe the compound that literally hydrates of carbon, carbohydrates. This is towards carbohydrates. So this is actually to describe the compound that will literally hydrates of a carbon. Because they had the empirical formula, which is CH2O. Then we can call it as a hydrates of carbon, CH2O. So actually the elements of carbohydrates, they are only make up of 3 elements, not more. In the first lecture we already learned about the elements. We have so many elements, right? For example, the important elements in human, we only have 26 elements, but carbohydrates, they are only make up of 3 elements, which is oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. So this is the element that make up the carbohydrates. So this is what we call the empiric formula, the CHO. 1 carbon, 2 hydrogen, 2 1 oxygen. So this is what we call as the organic molecules of carbohydrates. So you must remember, just now I'm talking about the organic molecule is actually any molecules that contain of the carbon. So if this molecule have a carbon here, so it actually the organic molecule. So the structure of carbohydrates. So most of the carbohydrates, they consist of carbon, all right. They also consist of hydrogens and oxygens. So the ratio just now I'm talking about 1 to 2 ratio to 1. So this is in a 1-to-1 ratio. So they are actually commonly in the shape of ring, as you can see from here. The fructose, it is actually in the shape of ring, but they have the the element of carbon, hydrogens, and also oxygen. Okay, so for the classifications of the carbohydrates, okay, the classification of the carbohydrates, first we have the monosaccharides, we also have the disaccharides, we also have the oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Okay, so monosaccharide is actually a simple sugar. They only have one ring, while disaccharides is the component of two monosaccharides. Okay, the joining of the two monosaccharides. And also we have the oligosaccharides, which is between 3 to 10 monosaccharide units joining. But these oligosaccharides are not discussed often, all right? And the last one, we have polysaccharides, which is more than 10 sugar units. And this polysaccharides, it can be divided into homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. So what is actually the differentiation between homo and also heteropolysaccharides? So when you're talking about the homo mesti same, right? Satu. So homosaccharides is actually a composed of the same repeating units. Okay, so if they are the polysaccharides of glucose, for example, so it's actually the combination of glucose and glucose, more than 10 sugar units. Okay, that is the homopolysaccharides. They compose of the same repeating units, whereas the heteropolysaccharides, okay, these heteropolysaccharides are composed of different repeating units of monosaccharide. So it can be, for example, it can be fructose joining with the glucose, joining with the fructose again, and so on. Okay, so this is the differentiation between homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. But basically, these polysaccharides are having more than 10 sugar units in a chain. Okay, so just now we were talking about the classifications of the carbohydrates. Okay, so what is actually the monomer of carbohydrates? Okay, so monomers are the atoms or small molecules that bond together to form more complex structures such as polymer. Okay, so monomer satu, polymer banyak, right? So there are four main type of monomer, which is include the sugar, the amino acid. Okay, sugar is the carbohydrates. Okay, including the sugar, amino acid, fatty acid, and also nucleotides. So this is actually the atoms or the small molecules that bond together. Okay, if one monomer is actually only one atoms or small molecules. Okay, so in monomer, okay, in the monomer of carbohydrates, okay, is actually there are three monosaccharides of carbohydrates. Monosaccharide, they only have one monomer. Mono satu kan? So monomer is actually monomer of carbohydrates is actually referring to the monosaccharides. Okay, which is glucose, fructose, and also galactose. Okay, so these glucose are also called as the dextrose, and it is a sweet sugar that found in the fruits and also vegetables, where fructose can be called as the lugulose, okay, or the fruit sugar, okay, and also it mostly can be found in sugar and also honey. And galactose is not usually found in nature, but it is often found in meat and dairy products. Okay, so this is the examples of monosaccharides. Okay, monosaccharides of which is monomer of the carbohydrates. Okay, so monosaccharides, okay, can be further classified based on the first one, the number of carbon atoms. Okay, the carbon atoms in the change, okay, in one change. So it can be further classified in the number of carbon atoms. And also the monosaccharides can also further classify into functional groups, which is in monosaccharide they have aldehyde group or aldoses, and also keto group or ketosis. So this is two examples of functional group of the monosaccharides. Okay. So this is the functional groups. For example, in the monosaccharides, we have aldoses and also ketoses. So this is the structure and classification of some monosaccharides. Okay. So as you can see from here, all carbons in monosaccharides here, they are bonded to the hydroxyl group. Okay, they are bonded to the hydroxyl group. Okay, except one. Okay, except carbonyl is bonded to a carbonyl group. Okay, except one will bonded to the carbonyl group. The rest will bond to the hydroxyl group. Okay, in both functional group of monosaccharides. Okay. Okay. So just now you're talking about monomer. Okay, what is actually a polymer? Molecules, what is actually a polymer? Okay, so polymer is a micromolecule that consisting of repeating units that represent the monomers. Okay, while the monomers are building blocks of the polymers. So if monomer, they have a building blocks. Okay, they have a many blocks, many chains. So this is we call as a polymer. Okay, so we're talking about the micromolecules. Okay, the molecules, not we are talking about the carbohydrates. Okay, so the monomer molecules of the carbohydrates. Okay, it can be disaccharides. They also can be polysaccharides, or they also can be the oligosaccharides. Okay, which is they have a many building blocks, many change. Okay, so this is we call it a polymer. So we're talking about the polymer of carbohydrates. So we have disaccharides, polysaccharides, and also oligosaccharides. Okay, so the key difference between polymer and monomer is that a polymer is a collections of the large number of molecules. Okay, collections of the large number of molecules, whereas the monomer is only a single molecule. Okay, so when you're talking about organic molecule, they must contain a carbon. So you must you don't get confused about the terms that we learn. All right. So the example of polymers in the cellulose. Okay. Okay. So just now you already learned about the monosaccharides. So disaccharides of carbohydrates is actually a joining of two monosaccharides by a glycosidic bond. Okay, by a bond. For example, in here, it is a maltose. So maltose is actually the disaccharides, which is have more than 10 units of simple sugar, more than 10 units of monosaccharides. Okay, this is actually the combination, the joining of the glucose. So this is we call as the homopolysaccharides. Okay. Tulisan ni Okay, so sucrose is also we call as the disaccharides. Okay, sorry, this is not 10. Sorry, I'm talking about the two monosaccharides. Sorry, So this is not the monopolysaccharide. I'm so sorry, my mistake. Okay, so now we are talking about the disaccharides. Okay, so disaccharides is actually the combination, the joining of two monosaccharides. Only two. Okay, the joining only two. So if one monosaccharide of glucose, one glucose joining one glucose, they can become the maltose. Okay, and if one glucose, okay, they are joining with one fructose, they can become the sucrose. While one lactose, galactose, they are joining with one glucose, they will become the lactose. All right, and one galactose combined with one fructose, they can become the lactulose. So this is actually the examples of disaccharides. Okay, maltose, sucrose, lactose, and lactulose that are the joining of two monosaccharides. Okay, please don't get confused with polysaccharide. My mistake just now. Okay, so this is what we call as the glycosidic bond. Okay, so this is the glycosidic bond. Okay, here. Just now we're talking about the maltose 1,4 glycosidic linkage, or 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay, so they are joining of 1 and 4 of hydrogen here. Okay, so this is the example of maltose. Okay, the dehydration reactions in the synthesis of maltose, which is the combination of glucose and glucose. Okay, so they can become the maltose. While the second example is the dehydration reaction in the synthesis of sucrose. Okay, sucrose. So they are actually the combination of glucose and also fructose. Okay, 1, 2. So this is what we call as a glycosidic linkage. Okay, or glycosidic bond. Okay, 1, 2 glycosidic linkage. Okay, so they will become the sucrose. Okay, so the other example is the lactose. So the lactose is actually the galactosyls 1 and 4, which combine with the glucose, okay, which is the monosaccharide of galactose, okay, they combine with the monosaccharide of glucose 1, 4. Okay, so this is what we call as the glycosidic linkage or glycosidic bond. Okay, so this is the disaccharides, the combination, the joining of the two monosaccharides. Okay, now we are talking about polysaccharides. So these polysaccharides, disaccharides is actually a polymer. Okay, so polysaccharides or polycarbohydrates are the most abundant carbohydrates found in food. Okay, which is they have most foods, they have a longer chain. They have more than 10 of simple sugar. Okay, so there are long chain polymeric carbohydrates that compose of monosaccharide units bound together by, just now we are talking about the glycosidic linkage or glycosidic bond. Okay, so they are ranged in structure from linear to highly branched. Okay? Either one linear change or they can be branched. Okay, and polysaccharides is actually we call as a complex carbohydrates. Okay, they they are plays a vital energy storage and also structural roles in the living organisms. Okay, which making the carbohydrates the most important biomolecules. Right. So the examples of polysaccharides include the storage such as starch, glycogen, galactogens, and also structural polysaccharides such as cellulose and also chitin. So cellulose and chitin, they can provide the structure to the living organism. Okay. So polysaccharides, okay. So polysaccharides in here, as you can see from here, starch, for example, starch. Okay, we also have glycogen. So the storage polysaccharides in plant, they will store as a starch, while in animals or human, it will store as a glycogen. Okay, so please don't get confused, these two, but both are the storage polysaccharides. Okay, so first we move to the starch, which is a plant polysaccharides. Okay, so starch is most important source of carbohydrates. Okay, so it occurs in plants, okay, in the form of granules. Okay, you can see in the form of granules here, and these are particularly abundant in the seeds. Okay, in the seeds, for example, especially in the cereals groups. All right, and they also serve as a storage form of the carbohydrates in a plant. Okay, so starch is actually a mixture of two polymer. Okay, you remember polymer, we have monomer and polymer. So they are actually a mixture of two polymer. Okay, the starch, which is amylose and also amylopectin. Okay, so natural starches consist for about 10 to 30% of amylose. Okay, 10 to 30% of amylose, okay, in the natural starch, okay, and also for about 70 to 90% of amylopectin. Okay, so amylose is actually the linear polysaccharide. Okay, satu je, linear polysaccharide, lari. Okay, while the amylopectin is actually the branch change. Okay, they are the branch in the change of polysaccharides. Okay, so glycogen, we are talking about glycogen, is actually the energy reserve carbohydrate of animals, okay, and also human. All right, and practically all mammalians cells, they contain some stored carbohydrates in the form of glycogen. So glycogens. So like in starch, they can be found in the type of granules, right? So in the starch, in the glycogen, it can also found as a granules here. Okay, but glycogens are normally can be found in the liver and also muscle cells because they are the organ that needs more energy, right? Muscle cells, they pollute more energy. Sorry, more energy. Okay. So, when human fasting or the animals where they can get the food or in the hibernation mode, okay, when fasting, so the animals or human will draw on these glycogens, okay, glycogen reserve during the first day without food, okay, to obtain the glucose because glycogen is actually the store of the glucose, right? To obtain the glucose unit, all right, needed to maintain the metabolic balance in the body. So this is the example of starch and also glycogen. Both are the storage polysaccharides, but one in the plant and also one in the animals. Right. So this is the structure of the starch and also cellulose. Okay, so this is the linkage of glucose monomers. Okay, so this is basically the structure of the starch and cellulose. Okay, they are combination. They have the glycosidic bond here. All right. Okay, so just now talking about the monomer, we're also talking about the polymer. We also have the isomers. So isomerisms. Okay? So isomers is actually compounds having same chemical formula. They have same chemical formula, but they are actually in a different structural formula. Okay, that they have this chemical formula same, but the structural formula are different. Okay, so the number of isomer depends on the number of asymmetric carbon. Okay, it depends on the asymmetric carbon, right? So, for example, in here, the fructose and also glucose, these are two isomer. Okay, see, you see they have the same chemical formula, but they have the different structure. Okay, the structure of formula. So although glucose and fructose, okay, just now you are talking about here, glucose and fructose, they have the same chemical formula, which is as you can see from here, they have C carbon 6, okay, CCH12 and also oxygen, they have 6. Okay, if you can count in here, so they have the same chemical formula, but in they are different structurally, and also we can call as the stereochemically. Okay, so these make these two are different molecules despite they are sharing the same atoms. Okay, despite they are sharing the same atom and also in the same proportions. Okay, so this is what we call isomer to another one, or isomeric monosaccharides. Okay, they have the same formula, but they are different structurally. Okay, so as you can see here, so this is the two simple sugar example here. So the two functional groups of monosaccharide, right? We have aldoses and also ketoses. So as you can see from here, they have the same chemical, right? They have the same chemical formula here, but they are differently in structure. Okay, so this is what we call as the isomer. Okay, the numerous chiral carbons. Okay. Okay. Next, okay, so this is the aldo keto isomer. Just now, I already explained about the glucose and also fructose, right? We move. All right. So, just now we already learned about the functions of the carbohydrates, right? And the structure of the carbohydrates. So, this is the application of chitin. So, chitin is actually one of the polysaccharides. Okay, they have a lot of joining monosaccharides in here. So what is actually the applications? What they can use of the chitin? Okay, the first one, this is the structure of this is the structure of the chitin monomer. All right, so the chitin actually forms the exoskeletons of arthropods. So this is the functions of chitin, the polysaccharides, right? And also, the chitin also can be used to make a strong and flexible surgical threads. So this is actually the chitin, okay, the polysaccharides, okay. So this is the applications of what is actually we are learned about the structure of the polymer of the monomers of monosaccharides, okay, when they are joining one monosaccharide to monosaccharide, so they can become the chitin that can be used in the as a surgical thread, okay. So this is the application of chitin, right? And lastly, the disease associated with disorder of carbohydrate metabolisms, okay, they also can have the diabetes mellitus, galactosemia, and also glycogen storage disease. And also the last one, they can have the lactose intolerance. Okay, this is the disease that associated with the disorder of carbohydrates metabolisms. Okay, if the body had the disorder metabolism of the carbohydrates. All right. So that's all for today. All right. Sorry, I passed about 5 minutes, okay, after 10. All right. So that's all for today, class. Do you have any questions regarding this topic? So next week, we are going to study about, let me switch on my camera back. Okay, so next week we are going to study about the other living molecules, which is the lipids. Okay, so are you okay, guys? Banyak fakta you have to remember. Okay, so this is basically the general of the chemical introduction study, right? The importance of the chemical study. So do you have any questions regarding our topic for today, which is carbohydrates?
No.
No, doctor.
All right. So after this, I will upload the lecture note in the spectrums. Okay, and please don't forget to click on your attendance. I open it until 10:30. Okay, for today's class. So thank you very much, guys, for your attendance and cooperation for today's class. I'll see you in the next Wednesday. All right? We are going to study about lipids subtopic. Okay? That's all for today's class. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Have a good day.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Most
Salam,
welcome.
thank you, doctor.
Bye, doctor.
Bye. Alamak, macam ni nak stop recording. Okay, see you.